Welcome to the Rest and Digest podcast. This podcast is for anyone with a digestive disorder, and it focuses on something called GI psychology. GI psychology is the science of the gut-brain connection, and it helps explain why stress and GI symptoms are linked. It's very common for people with health issues to feel desperate at times to find anything that can help. And unfortunately, there's a lot of pseudoscience out there, and it can be really confusing and difficult to know what's legit. So the information in this podcast is based on the field of GI psychology, which is grounded in research. So I hope you'll find this to be a source of trustworthy information and guidance. My name is Dr. Scott Rauer. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I also personally have a chronic digestive disease called Crohn's disease. I'll be guiding you in this podcast through the concepts and the tools of GI psychology to help you to understand the bigger picture of what's happening in your digestive system, and through tools that can help you calm your symptoms. A quick disclaimer, the information in this podcast is just for educational purposes only. It's not a substitute for medical or mental health treatment. So in the first episode of this podcast, we briefly explored what is GI psychology and how it can help manage a GI disorder. This included explaining about the gut-brain connection and why stress is particularly toxic for digestive disorders. In the second episode, we discussed a simple and effective tool for managing GI symptoms, which is called diaphragmatic breathing. And we explained what is diaphragmatic breathing and began talking about some of the many ways that it helps for digestive symptoms. Then for the remainder of the episode, we went into a step-by-step guided practice of how to do this type of breathing together. In this episode, we're diving into something super important for anyone with digestive issues, which is the rest and digest response of the body. This is a hardwired part of the nervous system, and it plays a major role in our mental health and the functioning of our digestive system. So just by the name alone, it's kind of obvious that anyone with digestive issues would benefit from understanding what is the rest and digest response in the body, how does it work, and what gets in the way of using it or activating it properly. So just like in the last episode, I'll break this episode down into two parts. First, we'll unpack some of the key ideas. Then we'll move into a guided breathing practice to put this information to use by activating the rest and digest response in your body, helping you to calm and to regulate your digestive system. In order to talk about the rest and digest response, we need to start by zooming out and talk about the gut-brain connection. The brain and the digestive system are deeply, deeply connected. And this really explains a lot about why GI disorders can be so common and also so tricky to manage. To picture the gut-brain connection, I'd like you to have an image in your mind with the brain at the top of the picture and the digestive system at the bottom of the picture. However you want to imagine that. So the brain is connected to a lot of organs in your body, but the digestive system is not just a collection of organs. It has its own separate nervous system, which is called the enteric nervous system, and it is a whole separate branch of your nervous system. It's often referred to as our second brain. So in that image, we have the brain at the top and the second brain of our digestive system at the bottom. And the connection between these two is not just the connection between two organs in the body, it's the connection between two whole massive nervous system with many, many, many connections between them. So it's kind of like a super highway connection in your body. And just like a highway, the traffic or the signals runs in both directions. The brain sends signals down to the digestive system, and the digestive system sends signals up to the brain. So the brain at the top that sends signals down to the digestive system plays a really big part in how the digestive system functions, how pain is perceived in the body, and it really plays a big role in how GI symptoms play out. So with that in mind, we can come back now to our main topic, the rest and digest response of the body. So if again, you come back to the brain at the top of the picture, the brain can trigger two different modes in our nervous system. One mode is called the sympathetic nervous system. There's a little bit of jargon in this episode, right? So we have the enteric nervous system, we have the sympathetic nervous system, and we have one more piece of jargon, but I promise I won't give you too much vocabulary here, but these are important concepts. So we have this first mode of the sympathetic nervous system, and activating the sympathetic nervous system is like pressing on the gas pedal in a car, and it activates the famous fight or flight response, which also people call the stress response. So the main purpose of this part of our nervous system is to protect us and to keep us alive by being able to take immediate action whenever our brain detects danger. So either I need to run away or I need to attack immediately. And in a split second, the sympathetic nervous system activates this hardwired fight or flight response. What happens next is stress hormones are released, and in order to either run away or fight, the blood rushes out from our non-essential organs and into our main muscle groups for immediate survival so that we can take action right away. So the organs and the systems that aren't needed for immediate survival that get affected by this are the reproductive system, the immune system, and you guessed it, the digestive system. Because if your brain thinks you might be lunch, it doesn't care about you digesting lunch. So that's one mode. The other mode that the brain can trigger is called the parasympathetic nervous system. So you can think about the parasympathetic nervous system as the brake pedal. The parasympathetic brake activates what's called the rest and digest response of the body. This is kind of like the opposite of the fight or flight. It's the opposite of the stress reaction. This is the green light our body uses to signal that we're safe and that it's time to slow things down towards a state of calm, and brings balance and regulation and repair back to our body. So in the ancient past, us humans, we had short bursts of sympathetic fight and flight activation, followed by long periods of parasympathetic rest and digest activation to bring us back to calm and balance. So if you take a snow globe and you shake that snow globe up real quickly, all the snow and the glitter gets shaken up and stirred up, and it will then take a while for that snow to gradually settle back down. And that's what the gas and the brake of our nervous system is like. It's quick to activate, and it takes a while to slowly settle. And that's how we evolved, with nervous systems ready and able to spike up quickly for survival, and then taking its time to settle back down into regulation. But that's not how it is for most of us now with our current modern lives. We don't have to worry about the threats of predators and running away from things that are a threat, or fighting things that are a threat for most of us. But we have these primal safety systems in us that still get us triggered from not predators, but near constant stimulation from notifications or the news or just the busyness of our lives. So this leads us to have chronic low-grade sympathetic activation, low-grade gas pedal activation that makes it more prone for us to get trapped into a state of urgency and anxiety, making it really much harder to access and activate that calming parasympathetic part of our nervous system. It's like the snow globe that doesn't really ever get the chance to fully settle before the snow gets kicked back up. So the good news is that you can directly influence your nervous system. By strengthening your parasympathetic nervous system, you can bring balance back to your body and reduce the likelihood of getting hijacked by stress. Activating that rest and digest response signals your body that it's safe and allows it to focus on supporting these parts of your body like the digestive system. So now that we've covered the importance of the rest and digest response, let's move on to the practical part of this episode where I'll guide you through how to activate it in yourself. One of the easiest and most effective ways to activate the parasympathetic brake in your nervous system is through a special type of breathing called diaphragmatic breathing, which is what we introduced last episode. So if you're ready to give it a try, the rest of this episode will be guided breathing practice where I'll be taking you through the steps of diaphragmatic breathing. You'll really likely get the most out of this if you just can find a comfy spot to sit down or lie down and not be distracted or multitasking. A place maybe you won't be interrupted. And ideally, if you have them, grab your headphones or earbuds and put those on. So if you need a moment to get set up, just hit pause here and then join me when you're ready. Let's get started by closing your eyes if that feels comfortable. And just let the body breathe itself for a little bit without trying to change anything at all. Just feeling the natural rhythm of the breath coming in and the breath coming out. For this part, you can just let go of all those concepts of the things we just reviewed. The mental understanding of what I was just going through with the different parts of the nervous system and all of that, that's not important right now. If it made sense, those concepts, excellent. If it wasn't clear to you or there's some parts that weren't necessarily clear, no worries. You can get just as much out of this whether your mind understands those concepts or not. So for right now, let's just start with the first step, which is to slow the breathing down. You can start by breathing in through the nose for a count of 4 or so, and then slowly exhale through the nose or through the mouth for about a count of 6. So let's just do this together for a few rounds. As you're doing that, you can experiment with breathing out through the nose or breathing out through the mouth to see what feels better for you. If you're breathing out through the mouth, you can try breathing out through pursed lips, which is like breathing out through a straw. That can really be helpful to slow the breathing down. And just trying out different ways of breathing out to see what feels best. In a moment, I'm going to add in a gentle pacing sound to follow on the inhale and to follow on the exhale so you can let go of the counting. And here's that tone right now, breathing in and breathing out. See if you can just slow things down to match this pace. And it's no need at all to breathe deeply or to move a lot of air. Instead of breathing deeply, just let the breathing slow down and just let the body breathe easily. You might feel like you could go slower than this pace that we're doing right now, but slower isn't necessarily better. Just follow this pace of inhaling and this pace of exhaling. And just like the last episode, I'm going to walk you through the 3 main steps that activate the rest and digest response. The first one is just to slow down the pace. And then the second step is to let the breathing come more from the belly than from the chest. So with each inhale, let the belly rise and inflate like a balloon. And with each exhale, let the belly fall or deflate like a balloon. If it's hard to feel from the inside, If you're breathing more from the belly or from your chest, you can just place one hand on the chest and one hand down on the belly, just to help you feel the sensations. If you're able to breathe in from the belly, letting it soften and rise up on the inhale, and letting it soften and deflate on the exhale, it means that you're using your diaphragm muscle to do the work of breathing. Breathing from the belly, using that diaphragm, is the way that all of us were breathing when we were babies and when we were children. But as we age, the effects of stress and anxiety can train us out of that healthier way of breathing. And because of that, this can feel unfamiliar if you're not used to breathing this way. It can also feel different because many of us, especially women, have been taught to hold in their abdomen and to always try to have a flat belly to be attractive. And this breathing practice is asking the opposite from you. Seeing if you can give yourself permission to really let the belly go as loose as possible and letting the breathing fill it up. The more that you do this, letting the belly soften up and the diaphragm to do the work of breathing for you, the more you're allowing your breathing to come not just from the upper lungs, but also the lower lungs. And this is important because the lower lungs are rich in parasympathetic nerve receptors. And so when these receptors are activated, they stimulate the rest and digest response, helping us to relax further and to promote digestion. And many of us are used to breathing just from the upper lungs, which can keep us out of being able to activate this rest and digest response in the body. So coming back to the 3 steps of this process, the third and final step is to let the out breath be longer than the in breath. And the pacer in the background is already guiding you to do that. With this next coming out breath, see if you can follow the full length of the tone of this out breath right here, not letting the breath end before the tone ends. We really want to draw out the full length of that out breath. These are the 3 parts of the diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. Breathing slowly, breathing down low from the belly, and with a longer out breath than an in breath. Let's just continue to breathe this way for a few more minutes so your nervous system has enough time to settle into this mode, and if you are feeling any sensations of safety, to let yourself soak in that a little bit. The sympathetic nervous system, or the gas pedal, gets activated very quickly. It can spike up easily in us. Getting the parasympathetic nervous system online, the brake pedal, it takes longer. It's like a snow globe. It needs much more time to settle down than it does time to get stirred up. As we come closer to the end of our practice, I'm going to share some final thoughts with you as you continue to breathe and rest. Breathing this way is not a magic cure, but it is a direct and effective way to build the strength, or what's called the tone, of your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and digest response. If you use this, it will help you to manage better and to help support getting your gut-brain connection into a stable and regulated state more often. All right, I'll stop the breath pacer here and you can take your time to come back. And before we end, it's important to share that this practice is about dropping out of the control tower of the mind and down into the body. If you're noticing resistance or agitation rather than a pleasant relaxation feeling from following this practice of coming down into your body more, I want you to know that that is normal. For many people with health issues, there's a natural resistance or avoidance of wanting to be in the body, which just makes sense, right? That's where the pain is, the symptoms, the discomfort, or the anxiety, where those live. So if you're noticing that in yourself, that's likely a good indicator that this practice is likely even more needed for you, because avoidance and resistance are band-aid solutions. And in the end, they just make it harder and harder over time because you can't escape your body. And fighting with reality is exhausting. But you can learn how to turn toward these experiences and to work with them, with what you're going through, rather than work against them. We can't stop the waves, but we can learn how to surf. So I hope you're finding this podcast to be of help. If you'd like to dive deeper and learn more about GI psychology, you can visit the website restanddigest.org, and I'll see you in the next episode.